recognized symbol of excellence for your entertainment.
Welcome to Machino Music, the show that puts the music in Machino music, with your host, me, Brett Strong. Today on Machino Music, the Kiss train keeps on running because we're doing 70's Kiss album ranking, the Klassic Years. Alright, here we go, 70's Kiss album ranking. The 80's album ranking did so well, what the hell, gotta do the 70's. That was the big period. That was Kiss Mania right there. I got a new table too. This is a lot more room. It's all creaking and cracking like that old one. So, yeah. New year, new table. This is going to be very exciting. Okay, so this was a very hard album ranking to do. I will say right off the top. Got to rank them somehow, but this one was very difficult because, 70's albums are great. This is like the classic period. And again, this is how I like these albums. If you like them differently, that's perfectly okay. That's cool. Don't worry about it. We're allowed to like different things for different reasons. So this is how I like them. Let's get on with it. Here we go. Very controversial starting it off. Gotta say, controversial pick. But, gotta rank them somehow. And I'll explain why. Love Gun, 1977. Can't find my copy. Blew my stack looking for it. I don't know where the hell my copy is. But instead of rummaging, I thought, just point up to it. But yeah, Love Gun, 1977. I know, very controversial. It's such a great album. But for me, it really comes down to two songs. And those songs are Plaster Caster and Then She Kissed Me. Those songs, I think, because they're like right at the end, they halt what could have been an absolutely perfect album. They just like throw the whole flow of the album off. Because, Plaster Caster, Gene Simmons song. I actually like the music on that song. Really cool bass intro, really cool bass riff. I really like that. But the subject matter, it's about a woman who is like a real woman who makes plaster molds out of different rock stars' penises. And, it's just a stupid song. I just could never get into it. And this woman, this would have been a perfect Frank Zappa song, and he, I think, did a song about this woman. That's where I first heard about this person, this Plaster Caster, was reading the real Frank Zappa book. And then, here, Kiss did a song about Gene Simmons. Of course they did. But I don't know, even for Gene Simmons, this song is it's just so dumb. I just could never get into it. It's just, other than the music. I will say the music's great. But I don't know. Plaster Caster, never liked. And then She Kissed Me. I love the original. That song, the original girl group, the Crystals, the Phil Spector, Wall of Sound, just an absolutely just awesome song. That's one of those songs I grew up hearing on an oldies radio, because my parents played oldies radio all the time, so that's one of those songs I heard. So I knew that song. I love it. But I don't like the Kiss version. It just doesn't work. The guitars sound crappy. And, the gender swapping thing, I don't know, Paul Stanley, love you, but you don't make it work. It sucks. I don't know. And, the song has been covered, but it's a very, very difficult song to cover. The Beach Boys did it, and they sort of gender swapped. It even made more generalized than I Kissed Her. Now, the Beach Boys did it a little bit better, because they're all about the harmonies. But even the Beach Boys version, no, not good. It's a very difficult song to cover, and I don't think Kiss did it justice at all. And I really don't think a lot of people, like Kiss fans, like that that song. But yeah, that's the thing. I just find it just halts the album. What could have been perfect. Because, you know, you got the title track, Love Gun. So great. I Stole Your Love kicks off the album. Such a fantastic opening. You got the first Ace Frehley song, well, the first song that he sung on, Shock Me. Such a classic. I mean, Almost Human is it's a dopey song, but still, I mean, Gene Simmons singing about transformation into a werewolf. I mean, one of the best werewolf transformation songs right there. I mean, that's a pretty cool song. But yeah, that's my reasoning for Love Gun. I know, extremely controversial putting it down this low, but it really comes down to those two songs. They just like halt to a screeching halt what could have been an absolutely perfect album. That's just me. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to go with the debut. This is a great album. Pretty well every song on this is great. Well, Kissing Time is garbage. That's not even a Kiss song. That was like thrown on at the last minute. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of that song. But the thing is with this album, it's the first album. They're just figuring it out. They're not quite Kiss yet, you know? I mean, even the makeup on the front here, I mean, it's not as defined. The face paint's just kind of getting, I mean, look at Peter Criss. I mean, what kind of cat is that? And again, of course, you got Ace with his, like, silver in his hair, like somebody's grandma. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is a great album, but just, they're still figuring it out. But you know, I mean, great classics on here. Strutter, Firehouse, Nothing to Lose, Cold Gin, Deuce, Black Diamond. Just an awesome song. Peter Criss with that vocal. Nobody could sing that song like Peter Criss. That was his best contribution, I thought, to the band, was his voice. Out on the street for a living, bitches only begun. Drumming, kind of mediocre, but his voice, man, what a perfect, awesome rock voice, or soulful rock voice, you should say. But yeah, I really like this album, but I just find it's not quite Kiss yet. Next up, I'm going to go Dynasty. Yeah, I don't know why this one's up a bit higher than the first. Some people might put this down a bit lower, but I really like this. I mean, it's the disco album. I Was Made for Loving You. But this album really is just kind of all over the place as a whole. I mean, who knows who is really playing on this? I mean, Ace and Peter pretty much are out of the band at this point. They contributed their songs. Ace did more on this, and he really shines on this. I mean, some of the best Ace songs are on here. 2000 Man, cover of the Rolling Stones tune. Fantastic. One of the great cover songs. So awesome. He also did Hard Times, great song. So, you know, his contributions to this were great. I mean, he did some good stuff on here. Peter, not so much. I mean, Dirty Livin', which is actually one of the only disco tunes on here. I mean, people say this is the disco album, but really, other than I Was Made for Loving You, Dirty Livin' has a very disco feel to it, and also Sure Know Something. Nothing else on this is a pretty rockin' album. But yeah, Dirty Livin' was the only song Peter Criss played on. You have Anton Fig playing the drums mostly on this. He later went on to be in, most famously, Paul Schaefer's band, the Late Night with David Letterman, the world's most dangerous band. But this album is actually more of a rock album than people remember. I mean, it's pretty rockin'. I really do like this one, and that's why it goes up as high as it does for me. All right, next up, 1976, Destroyer. This could have been higher. Like I said, it's a very difficult ranking. I struggled. I bashed my head against the wall. It was tough. But, so this is where I'm putting Destroyer. This is so great. I mean, The thing with this album, though, and this is probably why it maybe is down a bit lower for me. I mean, the classic songs are so good. I mean, the songs that make it great, make it stand out. Detroit Rock City, awesome opener. Classic Kiss song. God of Thunder, one of my favorite Kiss songs, so great. The signature Gene Simmons track, even though Paul Stanley originally did a demo, and it was pretty good. But made more sense for Gene to do it, so let's just give it to Gene. Shout It Out Loud, another classic. Of course, Beth was the big hit. I mean, I'm kind of tired of Beth, but it's still a good song. I still really do like Beth. Signature Peter Criss tune. Do You Love Me is great. Sweet Pain. King of the Nighttime World was actually a cover tune, but still a great song. But there's just a couple songs on here that I find like just kind of slow it down or not so, it's just, Great Expectations. Not a huge fan of that song yet, or dopey Gene Simmons song. Although I will say, as kind of stupid as the song is, it is hilarious that he has a children's choir singing on this song. Because the song's about molesting a woman in the audience. It's about wanting to have sex with some woman that was Kiss were notorious for that. Yeah. Apparently the whole thing of Gene Simmons pointing, it was like a code. Where that woman in that seat, that many rows down, it's like a whole big thing. And then they bring that girl back. Insane. So that's what this song's about. And it's just a stupid song. The lyrics are ridiculous and dumb. But what is hilarious is that he's got a children's choir singing it. So I'll give you that, Gene. That's funny. But other than that, it's a dumb song. I'm not a big fan of Flaming Youth either. It's kind of a throwaway. But the songs that make this album great, I mean, that's what puts it up so high. I mean, there's just the classics on here are classics for a reason. And I mean, this was the huge album. And I mean, this album cover is just iconic. They look like superheroes. And this is actually the first Kiss album I bought when I really, really started getting into Kiss. Had it on cassette. I mean, this was like so readily available. You could always find a copy of Destroyer somewhere. Yeah. So, Destroyer. But how do you top Destroyer? How do you top such a classic album? Well, they did it in 1976. With Rock and Roll Over. Yeah, they went back kind of to basics on this album. Because Destroyer had a lot of like big production, a bit more of a theatrical album, which, was cool, was great. They had Bob Ezrin producing, Alice Cooper's producer, so, got that more theatrical sound. This is kind of going back more to basics, and that's why this album just goes a little bit, that's why it edges out Destroyer. I mean, I Want You. Great opener. Starts slow. You're thinking, oh, they're starting the album with a ballad, and then it just hits you. Such a great opening song. Take Me, Calling Dr. Love, actually a Three Stooges reference. Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. I think that's where it came from, according to Gene Simmons. Yeah, Calling Dr. Love, such a great song. Ladies' Room, Baby Driver, one of the best Peter Criss songs. And again, another just soulful, got with that raspy R&B flavored voice. Yeah, that's such a cool song, Baby Driver. Love 'Em and Leave 'Em. Mr. Speed is a great deep cut. It's a song a lot of people don't mention. That's a great deep cut, Mr. Speed. And closing it out, Making Love. Awesome riff on that song. So great. Yeah. Love it. We're down to the final two. Again, this was difficult. I'm going to try and explain myself the best I can. And I'm going with Dress to Kill. So awesome. I mean, the songs that I love on this album kind of put it up just a little bit higher. And of course, Rock and Roll All Night was the hit off of this. Take it or leave it kind of song. I mean, as you know, as Kiss fans and even non-Kiss fans, I mean, they're just tired of that song. I mean, I heard it a million times. That song's not even defining of Kiss, but so many people, when they think of Kiss, they think of that song. But it wasn't a hit from this album. It wasn't until they did Alive that that song became a hit. That live version became the hit. But the songs that I love on this album are what puts this one up just a bit higher. Two-Timer. Great deep cut, one of my favorite. I love that riff. So awesome. Love Two-Timer. She, such a heavy song. One of the heavier Kiss songs from this period. Probably the heaviest song on this album. Just love that riff. It just, yeah, so awesome. Come On and Love Me. Fun song if you're into astrology. Because, you know, Paul Stanley starting, I'm a Capricorn and she's a Cancer. So, you know, one of the great astrology songs. But Rock Bottom. That is a classic Ace song. I mean, that intro. I mean, how many bands were inspired by that intro? I mean, how many heavy metal bands? I mean, you listen to something like Armed and Dangerous by Anthrax. That was inspired by Rock Bottom from Dress to Kill. I mean, Scott Ian's a big Kiss fan. Make no bones about it. He's a big Kiss fan. He's a big Ace Frehley guy. So Armed and Dangerous had that influence. I mean, that slow intro with like just the layered 12-string guitar sound. Oh, so great. And then it gets heavy. And it's big and heavy. Yeah, so it's just those few songs, I think, just put this one up a little bit higher. Dress to Kill. And coming in at number 1, the second album, 1974, Hotter Than Hell. The more I think about it, the more I listen to this album, this more and more becomes my favorite Kiss album. I mean, I think this is probably a lot of people's favorite Kiss album. You watch these Kiss album rankings, and there's a lot of them. People usually put this one at the top. Even ranking the entire catalog, this one usually makes it to the top. It's just a dark, heavy album. I mean, this is like this. They were trying everything at this point because the debut didn't do very well, even though it had those big hits on it. It just didn't do very well, and they were just so desperately wanting to, like, what kind of band are we? Like, are we fitting the image that we're putting out? And they tried it on this album. We're kind of do a bit more of a darker, early heavy metal album. And you got these heavy songs like Parasite. Such a heavy song. One of my favorite Kiss tunes. The title track is heavy. Love Hotter Than Hell. Got to Choose, the opening track, is great. Watching You is just a heavy, heavy song. Strange Ways. Yeah, this is just Kiss going all out heavy. Like, I mean, this is just a classic. And the more I listen to it, the more I think about, like, just like, what's my favorite 70s era Kiss album? This one just keeps going up. I mean, I could put, I mean, this is a very hard ranking. I could put anyone as, I was going to put Rock and Roll Over as my number 1. But then I just kept thinking, man, this one's just so classic. And, you know, you got, I mean, the album art is so cool. Big Gene Simmons looks like a jester mask. Love it. Got the Japanese. I mean, just everything they were doing on this period is just so cool. So, Hotter Than Hell, that's my favorite. So there you go. That's the 70s Kiss album ranking. I ranked them the very best I could. I keep saying this was very difficult. But I think I did it. Maybe a little controversial in places, but that's okay. Controversy creates cash. Eric Bischoff quote. Wrestling reference. Here we go. It all comes back to wrestling. But This is how I like the album. If you like them differently, that's cool. If you're a Kiss fan, I hope you enjoyed this. That's it for this week. Until we meet again, this is Brett Strong saying good journey.